Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into how a numbers-obsessed paperboy from Omaha somehow built a trillion-dollar empire to become the greatest compounding machine in human history. We all know the name, right? But very few of us truly understand the underlying mechanics behind his absolutely unprecedented climb.
To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this success, consider this: a single $1,000 bet on Warren Buffett back in 1965 is worth over $55 million today. We're talking nearly 20% annual returns compounded for 6 straight decades, and doing it entirely outside Wall Street's usual playbook.
So here's our roadmap for demystifying his strategy today. We're going to break this down into 5 distinct eras: the compounding machine, the cigar butt strategy, discovering the float, the power of reputation, and finally passing the torch.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the compounding machine, origins of the Oracle.
You know, Buffett's journey doesn't actually begin in some fancy Wall Street high-rise. It starts in Depression-era Nebraska, and it's a real study in contrasts. His grandfather ran a successful grocery store, and his father, Howard, well, he was a fiercely honest stockbroker that Warren absolutely idolized. But at home, it was tough. His mother suffered from severe mental disorders, leading to intense verbal abuse. So to escape that chaos, young Warren sought absolute control and predictability in numbers. He was relentlessly running paper routes, placing pinball machines in local barbershops, and get this, he amassed the equivalent of $50,000 today, all before he even finished high school.
Moving on to Section 2, the cigar butt strategy, unlocking hidden value.
That crazy high school hustle actually laid the groundwork for his time at Columbia University, studying under the legendary Benjamin Graham. And this is where Buffett mastered what's known as cigar butt investing. The philosophy is kind of fascinating, really. You find a pathetic, failing company selling at such a massive discount that there's just one good, free puff of profit left in it before the whole thing dies. He pulled this off perfectly with a forgotten company called Sanborn Maps, forcing them to unlock a hidden portfolio of assets that were worth way more than the actual stock price.
But here's the thing. Buffett wasn't just blindly copying his mentor. Graham had a cardinal rule: limit your risk and never, ever concentrate your money into a single asset. But Buffett, he went completely off script. When a really unique opportunity popped up with Rockwood Chocolate, involving this brilliant tax arbitrage using raw cocoa beans, Buffett just ignored his mentor's golden rule. He confidently bet 75% of his entire net worth on this one highly concentrated play for a massive gain.
However, this purely mathematical approach eventually showed a pretty dark side. Take Dempster Mill, for example. Buffett bought this failing windmill company strictly because it was statistically cheap. But to actually save his investment, he had to step in, ruthlessly fire workers, and liquidate physical assets. This sparked fierce protests from the small town of Beatrice, Nebraska. The citizens actually banded together to buy the company back. And honestly, that whole ordeal forced Buffett to seriously step back and rethink the kind of legacy he was building.
Which brings us to a major turning point in Section 3, discovering the float, scaling the empire.
So that pivot away from those messy, small-scale liquidations, it was actually triggered by what Buffett himself calls his biggest mistake: buying a dying textile mill out of pure spite, just because the CEO tried to cheat him out of 1/8 of a point. And yep, that mill was Berkshire Hathaway. But thanks to some tough love from his brilliant new partner, Charlie Munger, Buffett realized these cigar butts simply couldn't scale. Munger orchestrated a massive mindset shift for him, moving away from Graham's era of buying a fair company at a wonderful price and shifting entirely to buying a truly wonderful, enduring company at a fair price.
The real game changer here, though, was their mutual discovery of float, which they kind of stumbled onto by acquiring blue-chip stamps. So what is float? It's essentially the massive pool of idle cash held by businesses, like insurance providers, before they actually have to pay out claims. For Buffett and Munger, this was literally the holy grail. It meant massive, completely free leverage. They suddenly had this huge pool of idle cash to invest, and they didn't have to borrow a single dime from a bank to do it.
And this perfectly illustrates the brilliant float flywheel that built modern Berkshire. Step 1, you buy a cash-generating insurance firm. Step 2, you hold on to their idle cash, which is the float. Step 3, you invest that free cash into beloved brands with enduring competitive moats, like See's Candies. Step 4, you repeat the cycle forever. It's an unstoppable, self-funding engine of compounding wealth.
All right, Section 4, the power of reputation, the ultimate moat.
As his empire was scaling at breakneck speed, Buffett realized something absolutely crucial. In the murky world of high finance, deep integrity wasn't just a moral choice, it was actually his most lucrative competitive moat. Think about this rapid-fire sequence of financial crises over the decades. You've got the American Express salad oil scandal in the late 60s, an aggressive SEC investigation in the 70s, the brutal 1987 Black Monday crash, and the 1991 Salomon Brothers scandal. Through every single one of these institutional panics, Buffett consistently used immense market fear as the perfect catalyst to sweep in and buy great businesses on the cheap.
But notice the very deliberate pattern in how he handled these crises. During the Amex scandal, he fully backed a $60 million settlement just to preserve brand trust, even though legally they could have just walked away. When he acquired Wesco, he actually overpaid by $5 a share, strictly to keep a verbal promise he'd made to the seller. I mean, his reputation became so bulletproof that SEC prosecutor Stanley Sporkin dropped charges against him entirely based on glowing character references. Buffett effectively monetized this halo effect, later securing guaranteed 15% returns, literally just for lending his trustworthy name to Salomon Brothers.
And when a rogue trader nearly pushed Salomon Brothers into total bankruptcy, it was Buffett who stepped in to face the U.S. government. Listen to this absolute vow of transparency. He told them, "I would do whatever was needed, and I would do everything I could to make sure that things are exactly right in the future." That uncompromising integrity, it quite literally saved the firm from ruin. His personal brand became the ultimate shield against total financial catastrophe.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Passing the Torch, the final chapter.
So fast forward with us through the dot-com bust, 9/11, and the 2008 bailout era, where Buffett basically played the white knight for collapsing banks. Over time, the machine grew so massive it effectively became the market itself. In 2016, he finally broke his long-standing anti-tech rule, taking a massive billion-dollar stake in Apple. By 2022, he's still out there pouncing on downturns with Activision and Celanese. But the true end of an era really hit in November 2023, when his lifelong partner and the true architect of Berkshire, Charlie Munger, passed away just 34 days shy of his 100th birthday.
Entering 2024 without Munger by his side, the oldest hunter in the game did something totally unexpected. He quietly began selling off giant, multi-decade stakes in Apple and various banks. And by doing so, he built up this staggering, almost incomprehensible cash pile of $382 billion.
Now, naturally, Wall Street assumed he was building a bunker, bracing for an imminent market crash. But actually, this mountain of cash isn't a bunker at all, it's an inheritance. It was purposefully accumulated to arm his chosen successor, Greg Abel, with unprecedented financial firepower. He was setting up a completely seamless transition for the future of the empire.
And we're seeing that meticulous exit strategy play out right now. Following Munger's passing, Buffett spent 2 years heavily hoarding cash. Then, on January 1st, 2026, after exactly 60 years of legendary, scandal-free compounding, Buffett officially ended his reign. Come May 2026, he took a quiet seat right there in the audience of the shareholder meeting, watching his creation run entirely without him, exactly the way he designed it to.
Which leaves us with this final, profound thought to take away from this explainer today. Can the greatest compounding machine in human history truly survive without its legendary architect? Can this trillion-dollar, reputation-built engine really continue to compound forever without the Oracle of Omaha at the helm? It's a pretty fascinating question and one we'll definitely be thinking about as we watch this next great chapter of financial history unfold.